When Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioned the plight of the people of Balochistan, it gave strength to the others in other parts of the world to take up the issue more forcefully. Meanwhile, Baloch leader Bharati Bukti's application seeking political asylum in India was on Thursday received by the Home Ministry, which is examining it.
On the 70th Indian Independence Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made clear references to Pakistan's mistreatment of Balochistan and the atrocities meted out in the region and in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Vice President of the European Parliament showed his solidarity with the protesters.
EU countries, 28 member states, should react, and we should think about the sanctions in economic fields.
Despite the protests outside the UN General Assembly headquarters in New York during Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's address to the general debate, there was no mention of Balochistan in Sharif's UN speech, while thousands of Baloch leaders are being killed at the hands of the Pakistani army.
It was the ultimate war crime that the Pakistan armed forces have committed. They have spilled blood of civilians. Who are supposedly their own citizens.
They have adopted a strategic policy to suppress us, to loot us, to loot our resources, and for their strategic designs, they are eliminating the Baloch people. And this design has been declared as a slow-motion genocide of the Baloch people.
If Pakistan Human Rights Commission is to be believed, Baloch nationals are being targeted by Pakistan Army and intelligence agencies. Aerial attacks are razing their homes, people are being arrested in large numbers, and thousands are facing house arrest. They are being kept against their will and threatened. The Pakistan Human Rights Commission report says HRCP has noted with great alarm the rise of apparently sectarian and ethnic killings in Balochistan after a brief hiatus. It is unfortunate that the authorities have not been able to prevent sectarian and ethnic violence in Balochistan despite repeated demands. At best, the violence has ebbed for a few weeks before returning to claim more lives. HRCP wishes to remind the authorities of their responsibility to protect the lives of all citizens and to overcome the pervasive lawlessness in Balochistan. We agree with the Balochistan Chief Minister's recent assessment that sectarianism is impeding development in the province. Former opposition leader in Baloch Assembly, Kachol Ali Baloch, has said that more than 4,000 people are missing. A majority of them are students and political activists. Pakistan's intelligence agency ISI is providing financial support to those who are targeting the Baloch people. Balochistan, though not developed as such, is rich in natural resources and thus a prized asset for Pakistan. The area is rich in uranium, petrol, natural gas, iron and other minerals. The irony, however, is that its economic benefits are not being enjoyed by the Baloch people. News Night Desk, DD News.
So the big question that we're asking here on News Night today is it time for the international community to isolate Pakistan on human rights violations in Balochistan? Joining us for that is in our studios we have with us Baloch leader Mir Mazdaq Dilshad Baloch, and joining us on Skype is Abdul Nawaz Bukti, who is the BRP representative in the UN Human Rights Commission. Mr. Bukti, I'm going to come to you first, and the big question, like I said already, is it time for the international community to isolate Pakistan on the human rights violations of the people in Balochistan, and if yes, what are the steps that can be taken to do that?
I think, of course, it is the time because, excuse me, my voice is coming back to me.
All right, sir, but you can continue because we're getting it clear here.
Okay. The international community can take action against the Baloch genocide that is being committed by the Pakistani forces since 1948. And the action should long have been taken, but now countries like India has started to speak up against the Baloch genocide. So I think it sets an example for international communities to speak up and support India in not only isolating Pakistan, but also taking action against its crimes against humanity in Balochistan that has been going on for more than 6 decades now.
Sure. Mr. Bukti, and what kind of an impetus has India's voice lent to this fight of the Baloch people?
Sorry, I could not get you.
What kind of an impetus has India's voice lent to the fight of the Baloch people, bringing it on the international platform, the kind of boost that it has given to the Baloch people, the way India has also come out in support of, the Baloch people?
Well, it is a very huge development for the Baloch people and their struggle for freedom when Prime Minister Modi spoke in favor of the Baloch movement. And I think now India has started speaking for the Baloch rights internationally, and it is a very, very huge encouragement for us because we have been struggling to gain international attention for our movement for more than 6 decades. And always we have what we have faced is complete silence from international community. So it is a very big step, and we hope that other countries will also join India.
All right, I'm going to get Mr. Baloch also in this discussion. So when we're talking about the kind of impetus that India has voices lent to this whole movement that we're seeing here of the Baloch people, and also when we're talking about what can be done to really bring Pakistan, the international community, to isolate Pakistan for these human rights violations that are being committed. I mean, we heard the Vice President of the European Parliament also say there should be sanctions on Pakistan. Is that really going to be enough? What are the other steps that can be taken?
First of all, Pakistan, as it was proposed in the US Congress, that Pakistan should be called out as a terrorist state. First of all, and second, there should be sanctions, and before sanctions, the military and financial aid that Pakistan is getting, and those injections which are giving the lifeline to Pakistan, these should be stopped, because all those military aids and financial aids are being used for the persecution of the Baloch people. They're using all those military equipments and fighter jets and whatever they're using, they're using it on our people, and they have used the nuclear testing, as they call it, and the nuclear attack, as we call it. And still there is radioactivity, there is our waters are poisoned, there are people who are still children being born who are deformed. So there's a lot international community can do, and try to pressurize Pakistan to stop the genocide in Balochistan and to free Balochistan. We want to free Balochistan, and we don't want to be under the occupation and under the persecution of Pakistan.
You know, we've seen protests happening in Geneva, other parts of the world, but what are the other steps that are being taken to bring this more to the limelight when we talk about the international platform, the kind of steps that are being taken?
First of all, when Narendra Modi ji, he speaked up about Balochistan and what's happening and what Pakistan is doing, not only in Balochistan, but also in Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, Sindh. So he just became the hero of the Baloch nation and other oppressed nations. So what that provided was a ground internationally. So other powers, other people around the world, they could talk about Balochistan. And since then, we can see that internationally India has taken Baloch issue, India has taken Balochistan's name in UN several times. And so same things could be increased, the intensity could be increased. And also the Baloch people, they are protesting outside UN, either in New York, in Geneva, you see it in Australia, in London, everywhere. So all these activities can be increased, and especially the Baloch people can be helped by India to lobby internationally and to turn more international powers against Pakistan and to show the real terrorist face of Pakistan to the world.
Mr. Bukti, coming back to you now, you know, in a report we talked about how the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan has also come out and talked about these atrocities that are being meted out to the people of Balochistan. It's proof enough. Why is the administration there quiet, and really they're coming on the international platform, pointing fingers at others, but not really taking any responsibility for what's happening internally?
This has always been the response of Pakistani government and its security forces when asked about the atrocities in Balochistan and other parts of Pakistan, because they are the criminals who are committing those crimes, and how can they come and confess their crimes? And not only Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, but also internationally recognized human rights organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have reported these cases of enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, mass graves, and other war crimes that Pakistani forces are committing there in Balochistan. So the question why Pakistan does not accept those crimes is, I think, has no answer, because the criminal who commits crimes does not accept. It is the international community that has to take action against Pakistan for those crimes against the Baloch people.
And again, when we're talking about actions, I'm sure you heard what Mr. Baloch had to say. What are the other action that can be taken against Pakistan? What is the role of the Pakistan army in all this, and also the intelligence agencies?
The role of Pakistan army and intelligence agency is the all in all, because they are the only ruler in Balochistan, and also in other parts of in federation in Balochistan. They have been using force to occupy Balochistan for so long, and these dummy governments that come on United Nations forums and other international forums and speak, they are basically the spokespersons of the Pakistan Army and Intelligence Agency, and they only say what they are directed to say. And coming back to the question of taking actions, as Mr. Mazdak Baloch has said, the least the international community can do is to isolate Pakistan first, and then put on sanctions, and then raise the voice of the Baloch people, and let them decide their future, let them rule their country, and let them live as other civilized countries and other civilized people of the world are living.
Mr. Bukti, how important is India when it comes to the whole fight of the Baloch people? I mean, we've seen how exiled leader Baramdad Bukti has also applied for asylum here. So the importance of really India in this whole big scheme of things, and the kind of reaction that the international community has given then to this whole issue.
Well, India has the most responsibility when the Baloch struggle and their plight is concerned, and their suffering at the hands of Pakistan army and the crime they are facing by the Pakistani government. Because not only it is the neighboring country of the Baloch people, it is also the world's largest democracy, and it is also the victim of the same terrorism that Pakistan has been sponsoring, training and exporting not only to India but also in Afghanistan, in Bangladesh and other parts of the world. So we share the same pain, not only as neighbors but also as the victims of the Pakistani state terrorism. So it is the time that India take up its duty as a responsible neighbor and as the largest democracy of the world to become the voice of the Baloch people internationally, and really the support for Baloch people and their freedom struggle in the international community.
Mr. Baloch, India's efforts to make Pakistan accountable for these atrocities shows a resolve that it will not sit back and defend on all fronts. But when we talk about the kind of international recognition that's coming in through, we've heard other voices also being raised in this whole issue. How important does it really become for the Baloch people in their fight for the atrocities to end? And do you think the administration, the army there is also going to be sitting up and taking notice when there is more pressure being put to stop the violence that is intensifying in Balochistan?
See, first of all, what we need to know is what Pakistan is. Pakistan is just a banana republic which is run by the Pakistani army. And the government there is just a stooge. They have nothing on their hands. They can't do anything. They're not even able to talk. So we can see the example in the United Nations, but Nawaz Sharif, what a blunder he did. So what will happen is that the international community needs to put pressure on Pakistan, and they need to put pressure on the Pakistani army. They need to unarm the army. They need to unarm those goons who are in the army uniforms, and they're sitting in GHQ in Rawalpindi, and they are committing all these war crimes on Baloch people. And other than that, such as India, Afghanistan has also taken spoken up, Bangladesh and other internationally other communities. So when they're all coming together, they can move this movement further. They can give a rise to this. They can support us, and they can also try to isolate Pakistan in a way that Pakistan is pressurized enough that it has to back off from Balochistan.
You know, when we're talking about terrorism also, Mr. Bukti, we've heard enough being said when it comes to sponsoring terrorism where Pakistan is concerned. But now do you think it's time for hard action by the international community when it comes to terrorism that is sponsored from their soil and also these other atrocities that are being committed, and it's time now for action rather than just talking about it?
Of course, it is the time for action but first we need to talk because there are many countries that still support Pakistan, and because they have no idea what this country is doing with its neighbors and also the countries, also the people who are under its rule. For example, we take the United States. It understands that Pakistan is using terrorism against Afghanistan, against India, and against its own people, but still they are supporting, they are giving billions of dollars in aid, they are giving military aid. So first of all, we need to convince the international community and all those countries that are supporting the Pakistani state to stop that aid. First you stop that aid, and then you can go forward, and then you can put sanctions, then you can force Pakistan to stop its crime and stop exporting terrorism to other parts of the world. So this is how taking action starts. First you need to talk, and first you need to convince. So as a Baloch, I can say things that maybe a country will not take seriously, but if India speaks, and if with United Nations, with the United States of America, it can have a huge impact, and they can convince other countries of the world to stop supporting Pakistan, and that way only we can put an end to the state terrorism of Pakistani state.
Yes, Mr. Bukti, so that's the only way that can be done. Thank you so much for joining us here, and we'd also like to thank Mr. Baloch for joining us in this discussion and sharing their insights with us.